General Krathix of the Vordanian Empire stood frozen before the holographic display, his four eyes widening in disbelief. The battle footage played again and again, each viewing making less sense than the last. In his 3 centuries of military command across 12 star systems, he had never witnessed anything like this. "Replay Sector 7, he commanded, his translator struggling to keep the tremor from his voice. The screen flickered, showing the human medical transport that had landed directly in the crossfire between Vordanian and human forces. But that wasn't the impossible part. What defied all logic, all military doctrine, all sense of self-preservation, was what happened next. Human soldiers from both sides of the engagement had stopped shooting. Stopped. In the middle of combat. "They're treating the wounded," whispered Sub-Commander Velrus, her antennae quivering. "All the wounded. Ours and theirs." Krathix watched as human medics wearing white armor marked with red crosses moved between fallen soldiers of both species. A young human female carefully stabilized a Vordanian trooper's shattered leg, while gunfire still echoed in the distance. Another human administered emergency oxygen to a suffocating enemy combatant, their own arm clearly broken and dangling uselessly. The general's tactical implant calculated the mathematical absurdity of it all. These humans had abandoned strategic position, wasted precious resources, and exposed themselves to enemy fire. For what? To save those who had been trying to kill them mere moments before. "It's a trick," Krathix muttered. "Some elaborate deception." But the evidence accumulated. Surveillance drones captured human soldiers pulling Vordanian troops from burning vehicles. Intercepted communication showed human commanders ordering their forces to allow enemy medical evacuations to proceed unmolested. Most baffling of all, human military law apparently required these behaviors, codified in something they called the Geneva Conventions. "They have laws," Velrus said, reading from a captured human data drive, "that prohibit attacking medical personnel, torturing prisoners using certain weapons, and harming civilians. They court-martial their own soldiers for violating these rules." Krathix's mandibles clicked in agitation. They handicap themselves? Deliberately, in war? The concept was so alien it barely translated. In Vordanian military doctrine, in Zelthian strategy, in the warfare practices of every species in the known galaxy, war had one rule: victory by any means necessary. The next footage was even more disturbing. A human prisoner of war camp monitored by orbital surveillance. The Vordanian prisoners weren't in cages. They weren't being interrogated, tortured, or executed. They were being fed, given medical care, allowed to send messages to their families. This facility, Velrus reported, meets standards set by something called the International Committee of the Red Cross. The humans inspect their own prisons to ensure compliance. Krathix's combat-hardened mind reeled. They make themselves weaker. They give every advantage to their enemies. This should make them easy to defeat. He paused, reviewing the strategic summary with growing dread. So why are we losing? The question hung in the air like a grenade. The war wasn't going well. It should have been. The Vordanian Empire possessed superior numbers, better weapons, and ruthless efficiency. Yet across 17 battlefronts, human forces were holding or advancing. Perhaps, Velrus ventured carefully, their weakness is their strength. Krathix was about to dismiss this as philosophical nonsense when another report arrived. A Vordanian strike team had been captured after their weapons failed in a human city. Standard procedure would be immediate execution to prevent intelligence leaks. Instead, the humans had disarmed them, treated their injuries, and imprisoned them in comfortable quarters with food, recreation, and regular communication privileges. But the report included something else. A transcript. The captured Vordanians, treated with incomprehensible dignity, had provided detailed intelligence about upcoming Vordanian operations. Voluntarily. They turned, Krathix whispered. Not through torture, but through kindness. More data flooded in. Human agricultural units had remained in occupied territories, continuing to grow food that fed both human and Vordanian civilians. Human engineers repaired infrastructure that served enemy populations. Human aid workers operated in active war zones, providing medical care without discrimination. The intelligence officer pulled up comparative analyses. Our soldiers fear capture by humans less than any enemy in our history. This has increased surrender rates by 47%. Their treatment of civilians has prevented insurgent recruitment in occupied zones. Their adherence to these laws of war has actually gained them allies among neutral species. Krathix finally understood the terrible truth. These humans had looked at war, the most brutal, merciless activity sentient beings could engage in, and decided it needed rules. Not to make themselves stronger, but because they believed some things mattered more than victory. They would rather lose honorably than win through atrocity. And somehow, impossibly, this made them formidable. They fight with one hand tied behind their backs, Krathix said slowly, and still they fight better than those who fight with both hands free. Because soldiers who know they'll be treated with dignity if captured fight harder. Civilians who aren't terrorized don't become insurgents. Enemies given mercy sometimes become allies. He thought of his own troops, motivated by fear of punishment and promise of plunder. He thought of occupied worlds that burned with rebellion. He thought of prisoners executed to save resources, creating blood feuds that lasted generations. The humans had weaponized their compassion. "Contact the Empress," Krathix commanded, his voice heavy with defeat. "Tell her we need to negotiate immediately." "Sir?" Felrus was shocked. "We haven't lost." "No," the general agreed, staring at the image of a human medic saving a Vordanian life under fire. "But we will. These humans break every law of war we know, by having better laws. We can't defeat an enemy who makes mercy a military strategy." The transmission ended. In the silence, General Krathix wondered if perhaps humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their technology or tactics. It was their stubborn, illogical, utterly terrifying refusal to let war strip away their humanity.